You ever look at a t-shirt or a pair of jeans and wonder what it really took to make them? I mean, beyond the cotton and the sewing, there's this huge invisible story. A big part of that story is about water. Today, we're going to follow that water, tracking the wastewater in the fashion industry. And it all kicks off with a new set of rules, trying to bring this whole hidden process out into the open. So, our guide on this journey is the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB for short. What they've done is create a specific rule book for the apparel, accessories, and footwear industry. And the whole point is to get everyone speaking the same language when it comes to sustainability stuff that, could actually hit a company's bottom line. So let's just get right to it. What is the real environmental price tag on a new pair of jeans? Well, a massive part of that cost is water pollution. The dyeing process for that perfect denim shade, the tanning for that leather jacket, both use a ton of water, and they often dump a nasty cocktail of chemicals right back into the environment. All right, here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the problem itself, fashion's dirty water issue. Then we'll look at the new standard trying to fix it. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the key wastewater metric they use, walk through the actual cleanup process, and wrap up with why this whole transparency thing is such a big deal. So the heart of the problem is buried deep, deep in the supply chain. You know, all those amazing colors and super soft fabrics we love? They come from processes like dyeing and tanning. And those processes are incredibly thirsty. They use tons of water. And if they're not managed just right, they create a whole lot of pollution. What's really going on here is a chain reaction. It starts with the factories discharging all those chemicals. Then you have to remember that a lot of this manufacturing happens in parts of the world with, let's say, looser environmental rules. And here's the kicker. All of that environmental damage circles right back and becomes a huge risk for the brand. We're talking about a damaged reputation. We're talking about real financial costs. It's all connected. Okay, so how on earth are you supposed to tell which brands are doing a good job with this and which are just not? That's exactly where a standard set of rules comes into play. SASB's whole goal here is to cut through all the fluffy marketing, the greenwashing, and create a really clear, consistent way to talk about sustainability. And let's be super clear, this isn't just about PR or feeling good. This is about financial risk. These SASB standards are built for investors. They give them the hard data they need to see which companies are actually managing their long-term risks, like a future water shortage or getting slapped with pollution fines, and which companies are just kicking the can down the road. So, if these standards are supposed to help investors separate the good from the bad, what's the one piece of data they look for on wastewater? This brings us to the absolute core of our explainer today. Let's zoom in on the single most important number for tracking this kind of pollution. And boom, here it is. We're zeroing in on that top line metric CGAA-43A.1. It asks for something incredibly specific. It's not a long story or a vague promise. It's a number, the percentage of a company's supplier facilities that are actually following the rules on wastewater discharge. Just a hard number. This is what accountability looks like. Yep, it all just boils down to this. A percentage. A company has to put a number on it. What percent of their suppliers are doing the right thing and cleaning up their water? This one number forces a level of accountability that's been missing for a long, long time. No more hiding behind empty promises. Now, the standard starts with what they call Tier 1 suppliers. The easiest way to think about this is they're the main contractors. They're the factories that the big brand works with directly. The places that are actually cutting the fabric and sewing the clothes together. But this is where it gets really interesting, because the standard doesn't stop there. It forces companies to look at suppliers beyond Tier 1. And this is so important because we're now talking about the suppliers' suppliers, the fabric mills, the dye houses, the tanneries. Honestly, this is often where the worst of the water pollution happens, and it's where it's been easiest for brands to just look the other way. Okay, so when we say a facility is in compliance, what does that actually look like? Well, it means they are actively treating their wastewater before they release it. So let's actually take a look at the step-by-step process of how all that dirty water gets cleaned up. The whole treatment process is basically broken down into 3 main stages: primary, secondary, and tertiary. We're going to walk through each one. Think of it like we're getting a tour inside one of these treatment facilities. First up, you've got primary treatment. This is all physical. It's pretty straightforward. The water flows through big screens to catch any large junk. Then it goes into a big tank and just sits. All the heavy, solid stuff, the sludge, sinks to the bottom, and any lighter gunk like oil and grease floats to the top so it can be skimmed right off. Stage 2 is secondary treatment, and this is where we bring in the bugs. Seriously, they introduce microorganisms. Think of them as good bacteria,
into the water. And these little guys go to town, eating up all the dissolved organic pollutants and breaking them down into stuff that's basically harmless. It's literally a microscopic cleanup crew.
And finally, the last boss, tertiary treatment. This is the advanced final polishing stage. It can be a bunch of different things. Maybe disinfection to kill any leftover germs, or special filters to remove nutrients, or even super high-tech stuff like reverse osmosis. The goal is to get the water to a really high quality so it can be safely put back into the environment. So what exactly are all these treatment stages trying to remove? Well, the discharge permits basically look for 3 categories of stuff. First, illegal substances, things that should absolutely not be in there, period. Second, legally regulated stuff that's only allowed up to a certain safe level. And third, a catch-all for other pollutants of concern, like certain pesticides, dyes that can cause allergies, or even just getting the water's pH balance right.
All right, so we've been deep in the details, right? From supply chains to the chemistry of water treatment. So now let's zoom all the way back out and talk about why this data is such a huge test for the fashion industry and why it should matter to every single one of us.
Here's the bottom line. This simple percentage, it gives people power. It gives investors a clear apples-to-apples way to compare companies. And for us, as shoppers, it's a tool. It helps us see which brands are actually walking the walk on their environmental responsibility and which are just talking. And this quote from the Standard itself nails the business argument. It's basically saying that the big, powerful brands have a responsibility to lean on their suppliers to clean up their act. And doing that isn't just good PR, it's just smart business. It protects them from the future costs that are definitely coming from things like water shortages and tougher environmental laws. And that really leads us to the final question, doesn't it? This SASB standard, it's a tool. It gives us the data we need for real transparency, but data by itself doesn't change anything. So the question that's left hanging is, now that this information is out there, who is actually going to use it to hold the industry's feet to the fire? Is it investors? Is it governments? Or is it us? Something to think about.